What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 14 of The Reason Reborn. I'm here with the tantalizing Cardiac Sumo. Say hello to the people.
Hello, people. Fuck this Negus guy.
I told you, and I'm drunk too. You're lucky I didn't say anything worse. By the way, disclaimer, I am pretty drunk right now because I sat and I watched the presidential State of the Union address, and I needed something to fortify myself for that. So just know that if I go like crazy and off the rails with my anger, it's going to be even heightened than what it usually is because of this. Here's a promo: Sky Vodka, Sky Infusion, Georgia Peach. I highly recommend it. You try it. It's really, really good. Good flavor. And it gets you where you need to be when you need to deal with fuckery. So
unlike some punk asses, I watched it sober. So,
and I commend
real
you.
Man.
I commend you because you got more heart than me. I just can't. I just couldn't do it. And as it kept going, I just kept pouring. And that bottle that you saw is actually empty right now. So this is gonna be a fun podcast. So we're just gonna focus on that. I mean, there's been a lot of news. We got the stupid memo that the Republicans want to put out, trying to discredit the FBI, and we got the
while blocking the Democrat memo.
Yeah, and we got the FBI deputy director quitting. We got we missed it on the last podcast, I think, with Trump saying, basically coming out that Trump actually tried to fire Mueller, but his lawyers threatened to quit if he did that because they told him it would like fucking ruin him, and all sorts of shenanigans that has gone on. But we need to focus on this shenanigan right here because this was the longest hour of my life. That's the funny thing. Hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. It was only an hour and a half long. Did I say only?
Only?
Because the only reason I say only is because it felt like I was sitting here for the last 4 hours listening to this guy do the greatest stretch I've ever seen. Like, honestly, if you need a textbook example of how to stretch something and fill TV time without actually doing anything, WWE, take notes. This man can teach you how to stretch your bullshit pay-per-views that you be having that drag on for no reason at all and just be full of filler. This guy knows how to put filler in. Okay? Watch him. He knows what he's doing.
Why do they have to have these things at like so late, by the way? I mean,
yeah, I feel like 9 p.m. is just the dumbest time. You're catching the transition of the people who, there's some people maybe just getting home, but they're tired, and not really focus. You're catching those people who they've worked all day, they've done everything they need to do, and they're settling down and like kind of winding down to like going to bed and all that. It's a weird time slot that they pick for that. Like me personally, I would have picked 8. I thought 8 would have been the perfect time.
Yeah, it seems like more appropriate. But
yeah, it's like
even fucking Raw and SmackDown don't start at 9. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 8 o'clock is fine. You get people in who are still alert enough to really want to pay attention, especially with a guy like this who is only artful in saying nothing. It's you kind of want to get people locked in early so you can get out and they can go about. They can like take their time. It also makes it like where like I don't want to watch CNN and MSNBC and hear their reactions right now because it's 11 fucking o'clock at night. This is why we just record this and we post it. We don't necessarily make you watch it live because I'm not trying to hear a live accounting of this shit again at 11 o'clock. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah, they need to like work on that, the timing thing. But all right, so where do we begin? Because I don't really know if there's a real beginning point. Because I felt like from the start of the speech until the end, he didn't really have a solid beginning, end, middle, because he kept peppering in the whole, tug at your heart stories about different American heroes and people who dealt with tragedies and things like that. Like he pretty much jumped it off, talking about that female soldier who helped people during one of the hurricanes and stuff like that. And it was like, okay, that's cool. But
yeah, no real logical progression. I didn't start taking any notes until later, but I do recall it seemed like he started off bragging about our economic situation, going through a bunch of bullet points. Lowest unemployment rate for the blacks. I'm so proud
which
of that.
had been disputed earlier this week because people have talked about it. The major point being that starting in 2010, the trend started to rise and get better. So it wasn't necessarily something that he did. It's kind of the same as most of the things that he boasts. The number pops up while he's there, so he takes credit for it. But the reason behind it started well before he even showed up on the scene. So it's like, yeah, you take credit for this, but you didn't actually do anything. You just happened. It's just like, say somebody robs a bank and they drop a bag of money and I pick it up. Shit. I came up because you dropped it. It's not necessarily because I put in the effort of like stealing the money. You did that. You just happened to just leave it there for me to pick it up and be like, yeah, I just got away with taking $1 million. It's like there's no effort.
Yet, no matter how many times people dispute all that shit he says, he keeps saying it. So either he is too stupid or he doesn't care that these are, if not falsehoods, a lot of times just misleading. Because he spent a good amount of time bragging about that kind of stuff, just throwing out stat after stat, bragging about the effects of the tax cuts the Republicans drove through last year. Everybody's getting paid more, less taxes, small business confidence in the market and stuff.
But the funny thing is, we haven't even seen any of those results because it's funny. I remember logging in to sign in for work the other day, and we have this system that tells you all this crazy stuff, and it actually says that starting January 20th, any paycheck that comes after that date should reflect the tax cut. So we haven't even seen the reflection unless you got paid this week or you got paid on after the 20th. So what are you taking credit for?
That you're going to get more money. I mean, which again, we've talked about this, is fairly short-sighted. I mean, when I see a little bit more money, I'd be like, yay, in the short term, but concerned about the long term still.
Yeah, because your tax concern is going to rise because you're paying less in taxes. But when taxes come up, just like I actually lucked up this year. I did my taxes and it never fails. Every other year I get a refund from the state of Maryland. But now with these cuts, quote unquote, in taxes, I am certainly guaranteed to owe somebody something this next year because I'm not paying as much as I did. And I try to keep my tax liability to a place where, yeah, it kind of sort of gouges my paycheck a bit, but it doesn't enough so at the end of the year, I don't have to worry about sending in a check to the IRS or the Maryland State Comptroller. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, since he's kind of lowered it, I'm seriously concerned that come 2019, I'm going to be looking for a way to pay off the government. And I don't want that because it's nice to have the money in my pocket now, but I'd rather not have this huge looming bill coming down the road. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that's why it was so problematic the way he kept, because he bragged on this economic issue for what felt like a long time. constantly shoving it in Americans' faces, like, you're all getting more money, hooray, blah, blah, blah. Gross oversimplification of what's happening here. Irresponsible oversimplification of what's happening here. But again, I think that's what he spent a lot of the first maybe 20 minutes on, was just his administration's supposed economic successes.
Yeah, and if he was a spider, he'd have 8 broken legs right now from the way he was trying to pat himself on the back for everything he was accomplishing. Like, I feel like the first at least 20 minutes of his speech was just him going over just how well they say. He talked about how, oh, we brought back factories, which isn't true necessarily. We've like reaffirmed like American jobs and saved all these jobs. As we know, like his first big quote unquote hit with Carrier is now looking like a nightmare because they're about to get rid of like all the jobs that he claimed he saved plus more. It's just like, he was trying so hard to build up the aura that, I've fucking been killing it. I've been knocking it out the park.
All these jobs that went away, I'm bringing back. All, dealing with all the, what was it, beautiful, clean coal that everybody fucking wants.
Okay, we need to spend some time on this because I think that's when my drinking really kicked in. When he said that. Could you define what beautiful, clean coal is?
It is a fictional energy material because coal is simply not clean at all. And the fact that he says that is horrendously dishonest. This notion that coal is clean, like, it's just patently false. So I don't know why he feels the need to say that. I also don't know why he feels the need to brag about bringing back these jobs, which I highly doubt he did. And even if he had, there's other reasons we don't have those fucking jobs. They didn't just disappear for no reason. We have better technology, cleaner technology that we can leverage. Those jobs aren't coming back. You need to stop lying to those people who lost their jobs and stop taking advantage of them.
Yeah, like the Apple thing. They negotiated because he put in the tax laws about how if you bring your business back the first year or two, I forget what it was, you won't have to pay a certain amount of taxes. And it's like, yeah, of course, as a business, if you're telling me I get to keep money in my pocket, fuck it, I'll bring these jobs back for like specific amount of time. And then once the breaks are gone, do you really think they're going to feel obligated to stay? It's not like it's a law that mandates that they have to stay, but they have to keep them here. It's just that you just have to keep them here long enough to take advantage.
Yeah, encouraging leeches on the system, which usually Republicans hate, but fuck it. It's a minor point, closing up that whole coal point. This just goes back to his lack of understanding and caring about environmental issues. Just the other day, again, he was running his mouth about climate change, which he doesn't seem to understand at all. And it's, once again, our president is denying that climate change is a thing, not believing in science whatsoever. So he's lying to these people who we should all feel bad for. They lost their jobs. They're in tough economic situations, but he keeps lying to them, telling them that these jobs are coming back. And he continues to spread untruths about the science of climate change on top of that.
Yeah, speaking of lying about jobs, the whole thing with the automotive industry bothered me too, because he's like, yeah, we're bringing back factories and stuff like that. But it's like these companies have said for years that they're moving to a more automated system in constructing cars, that they need less people to do that. I remember when he first came into office, Toyota was completely 100% transparent with the fact that, yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of automation in our building, and other companies as well. Ford was one of the ones that particularly came out. The president of Ford was like, yeah, he was kind of disingenuous in what he was saying, because, yeah, we thought about moving to Mexico more, but we may stay, but it's not like we're going to abandon the whole having machines do most of the heavy lifting for car construction. So it's
He said something about, we have to get vocational schools and get all these kids trained so they can do stuff, and that's fine and dandy, but you're making it sound like they're going to be able to take these kind of jobs that don't exist. I mean, you need to be more careful when you say shit like that.
and more importantly, think about the way that they've attacked the education system with the way that the Department of Education is ran now. Like everything they've been doing has been pretty much to marginalize the need of an education department and to try to remove it from the system and to cut budgets. It's like, how are you going to inspire people to open educational facilities where you don't want to fund educational facilities?
Yeah, it was disingenuous all around, but I don't know. It seemed, the vocational thing especially annoyed me because, again, I don't like him lying to the people who really are in dire economic straits and trying to convince them that they can regain these jobs that went away, and there's no reason to think they're going to come back, at least not in any strong force. It's disgusting, to be quite honest. He's just taking advantage of their I don't know even what the word I want to use there is, their
Naivety.
situation.
Basically naivety.
I mean, their desperation, really.
Yeah.
Some of them are in a horrific situation. They can't provide for their families anymore, and he's preying on the fact that they're in an emotionally vulnerable situation right now and using them to bolster his support.
Yeah, and the reason I say naivety is because I'm not saying because I think that they're just completely ignorant of things. It's just that, like you said, in the moments of desperation, you are naive enough to believe certain things because you're just trying to get a leg up. You're trying to keep your head above water. You're trying to survive. Right. So when you hear people say, like, I'm going to help you, you kind of like, yeah, I hope you are. I really want to believe that you are because I need fucking help. And I feel like he's good at manipulating that in the ways. I think that's one of the reasons why he rose to where he was, because the people who voted for him, generally speaking, have been noted as people who are in those dire straight situations, who felt abandoned by, different groups, who felt like because of their educational and economical status that nobody was paying attention to them and caring for them and all that. And it's like this guy kind of just goes in and throws like, yep, I'm going to help you. I'm going to raise you up. And they're just like, good, finally, somebody's like, trying to help me. And it's like, yeah, you're not really paying attention to what he's saying or to what he's doing.
He certainly doesn't give a shit, like, at all. And we should help those people. We should definitely think more about how to help those people, but continuously lying to them about getting back this stuff it's disgusting. Beyond that, like you said, he was all over the place. He was pulling up these stories over and over. This woman who was helping out during the hurricane in Texas. These guys, these parents who lost their kid to gang violence. This soldier who saved a fellow soldier over in it might have been Afghanistan, I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Afghanistan, because that was when he made the point of saying that we have new rules of engagement.
That was it. I could. He brought up so many different people's stories. That fucking kid with the crutches. Actually, he wasn't a kid now, but that.
Yeah.
He just constantly peppering in these tear-jerking, heart-wrenching, emotional stories just to leverage them, I guess. They barely even seem to serve a purpose, except when he wanted to say something that maybe wouldn't have been as popular, but, emotionally manipulate people so that they didn't bother them as much.
Yeah, it was. He really, like I said in the beginning, he showed you the art of stretching, because when I go and think back to like what the State of the Union address traditionally is and what his was, he really didn't have an agenda and he really didn't have much to say. He kind of like regurgitated a lot of things that have been said before, but not in detail. It's like the whole thing with the infrastructure thing that blew my fucking mind when he was like talking about we need to like rebuild our infrastructure and stuff like that. He's like droning on, and then all of a sudden he hits us with that's why I want us to spend $1.5 trillion to build pretty roads and beautiful bridges. And that's when like my head snapped like, you want to do what now? And it was just like he just threw it in so casually and just kept going and drawing like, yeah, we need to fix this and this will bring jobs. And all. It's like, sir, you just told us that we need to invest $1.5 trillion in this. Where is this money coming from, sir?
The Mexicans, duh.
And it's like that's the thing. Like going back to the whole tax thing, that's where it's like the whole like spin on things because somebody's got to pay for that. I understand he thinks Mexico's going to pay for the wall, but Mexico ain't going to pay for our roads, dude.
I just imagine like every Republican fist just like clenching in silence when he said 1.5 trillion.
Like the author picture. It's just like everybody's just like sitting there with the ball fist, like
because you know they're trying to use him for political gain, but they can't control this motherfucker, so they'll just come out and say some shit, and then just like, damn it, again, why can't we keep this guy under control?
Yeah, because that's a hefty promise, and that's an expensive promise, and I feel like he's just thinking like this is like how I always do business. I'll write the check that's going to bounce. And it doesn't matter if nobody pays for it because, hey, who cares? It's like, it kind of does matter who pays for it in this case because a lot of our money like that we spend comes from promise notes that we give to other countries, in particular China, that may decide one day to call in their debts. So, and you can't renege on a country. You may be able to like,
war, I guess.
Huh? Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like you may be able to fool like 100 lawyers, 100 like construction companies, and have them coming after you in years of litigation that goes nowhere. But you ain't doing that with countries because, like you said, you may unless you want war or worse, you may want them to go to the UN and end up putting us in sanction hell and shit like that. Like, no.
Maybe jumping to war was a little extreme, but
no, I mean,
I was just leaping off of his statement that we need to improve our nuclear weapon technology, which, you know, you said that 1.5 trillion thing blew your mind. That comment about nuclear weaponry blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, because why do we need to improve on being the country with the most nuclear weapons? At least close to the most. If Russia might be the only country that has a comparable nuclear weaponry than us.
I think that statement itself shows how childlike his thought process is. This is the same guy whose big solution to the immigration issue is let's just put a big fucking wall in the way and it will block them. You know, the same guy who's, I guess his view on warfare is we just have to have a bunch of really big bombs and then we win. I mean, you know, to your point, we have a lot already. We don't need as many as we have to destroy the world a few times over. We should be disarming some of them, if only because it will limit the amount of possible accidents we could have with them. Just having them up in there, you know, up and assembled and whatever. I mean, what if we have an accident with one of these nukes and they just kind of go off, right? We already have too many and they're already a risk to our own safety by fucking being there. We should be, if only for our own safety, disarming some of them now, not adding to the storage. That's just stupid. And I'm not even saying disarm them all right now. You can obviously have some for, you know, mutual deterrency, but you don't need that many to deter other countries. You only need a few to destroy the world, right? So it's not like, I don't know where he gets this idea that we need more. He's just pulling it out of his ass. I don't know anybody else who says something like that.
He's stuck in the 80s. He really is. Because like I never understood it back then how we kept wanting to win the quote unquote nuclear arms race. Because it's like you said, you don't really need that many to take out people. I mean, nuclear bombs have a pretty big damage path. And having seen the effects of nuclear accidents and using nuclear weapons like in World War II with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or like the Chernobyl thing. Like Chernobyl is just getting to a point where you might think about letting people walk in there for a few minutes. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like
he doesn't seem to understand that it's unnecessary. Two, it'd be a huge waste of fucking money, and three, I'm not comfortable with the fact that the rest of the world watched him say that. Because they're like, well, America, who already has a shit ton of nukes, thinks they should make more nukes. That just exposes us as being a threat to the entire Earth.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that fucking position, but...
Yeah, because I don't want people to be seriously looking at us like, we might need to kill them first. And it's like, whoa, I'm not with this agenda.
And they would have no chance of doing it because our military is pretty we put a good amount of money toward it, despite what he said during the election and throughout the year. I guess that our military is in trouble, they need more money, blah blah blah. Our military is pretty fucking good.
No, but just think about like I'm not saying like if one particular country, like I know we fear the Korea thing. And yeah, if Korea actually did send a missile over here, they probably could do some damage, depending on response time. But just imagine if a bunch of different countries just decide, yeah, we need to get rid of these people. Let's join together and use all of our might to get rid of this country. So Russia and Iran, North Korea, China, like countries that we know have some nuclear capability, just decide, yeah, they're a problem. We need to band together and fix this, and decide to fire their missiles off at once. Yeah, we're going to take out probably a significant amount of that, but something's going to hit enough to cause like concern, worry, and damage. And if the world decides to put their weight, especially China, the weight of their military towards coming at us, who's to say that we're going to actually it'll be a war of attrition, but it'll be a fucking mess.
And I'm sure, some of this war talk seems a bit extreme to people, and in some ways maybe it is, but this is the position he keeps putting us in by running his fucking mouth. He doesn't seem to understand the importance of geopolitical relationships. He just goes at anybody, our allies, our enemies, whoever the fuck he wants, however he wants.
Yeah, because he made a huge point about how, like, with the trade thing, he needs them to be quote unquote fair, but he also qualified it by ending with America first. To me, that doesn't say like, oh, we just want to like everybody to be on equal footing and everything to be like fair, like he said. No, he wants it to be fair in the sense of, yeah, this benefits us. I don't care what you feel. It's kind of like that guy, the guy whose attitude towards sex is like, well, I got mine. I'm sorry if you didn't get yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and I remember this coming up in the talk when he was bragging about us. I don't know what he was getting at, like reasserting our fucking dominance in global trade and shit, which pretty much just meant that he was pulling us out of shit, and complaining that after he acknowledged Jerusalem as the capital over there, that there was that vote in the UN, and he complained that all those other countries that are our allies, voted against us in that shit. That, well, fuck those guys. We're giving them all this money and aid. We're not going to do that anymore. All the money we give needs to benefit America. Like, his stupid, simple-minded, selfish view of global politics is disturbing. and he's supposed to be our president. He doesn't seem to understand why we have these kind of relationships and understand that, you know, maybe you don't always need to make a fucking dollar out of everything. There's other reasons to do stuff that benefit us in other ways.
Yeah, and that's his biggest issue. Is like he approaches things like he said he was going to run it. It's like he runs a business, and most businesses, their whole purpose is to make more money than the competition and to bury them if possible. It's like it's not how you run a political agenda. We're not trying to bury England. We're not trying to bury India. We're not trying to bury China. We're not trying to bury France. We're not trying. We shouldn't be trying to bury anybody else. You know what I mean? We're not like in a competition for who's the most successful country. I mean, there was a time where imperialism and things like that seemed to be the motivation, and dominance over everybody was the key to being looked upon as a successful country. But since World War II, that's not been the way that the world has gone. The world has changed significantly in the last 70 years.
He's a old school business guy, I guess, to whatever extent that what he thinks a business guy is like. But this goes back to those fucking people who say he's going to run the country like a business. One, as everybody says, he's not a business guy, not really. And two, it's not a fucking business. No. Like, I don't understand why that was so difficult for people to wrap their minds around. You don't want somebody. That's like running your class like it's a business or something. Like, no, you just hand out education to everybody. Not everything has to work the way a business works. Those are different ideals, different philosophies, different spaces of work altogether. I only bring this up because he bragged about it like he was strengthening our global position, and I would argue that he's been weakening it a lot.
You know, me and you have had this conversation before about how it's crazy. Like, it's funny because one of the stories that came out over this past week was that America is now considered the 8th best country in the world, which, considering how many countries are in this planet, that's notable. But there was a time where America was actually looked upon as the beacon, and the fact that it's actually dropped in his stature while he's been in office should say something to you, because that's concerning that people's opinion of us is a lot less. Looking at what we were talking about, the whole thing with Canada, and I forget the name of the trade agreement, but they were like, we're going to, it's like they pointedly came out. It's like, we're not abandoning this because America is not a part of it. Like, we want this because we want to work with each other. So if America don't want to be a part of it, okay, that's fine. We're trying to work together.
This is the cost of Trump's nationalism. He keeps pulling us out of shit because America first, isolating us out, and then as we get pulled out of shit, everybody else is filling up our spots, never to be taken from us again. Like, he's not helping us in any way. He just keeps pulling us out of stuff and leaving us more and more isolated while the other countries realize that they don't fucking need us. This fucking guy.
The world is a lot different. Again, he, like I said, he seems to be stuck in the 80s. The world is a lot different than it was in the 80s and decades before that, because people aren't as dependent on America as they used to be. And the fact that, oddly enough, we helped spur these trade agreements like NAFTA and like the Pacific Trade Agreement to enable countries to work together and to be a lot more self-sufficient, as well as eager to be, involved with each other and kind of cooperative with each other. We've created, the system has been laid in front of us to where, we don't need a United States to be at the forefront, because if we put enough people together who are on the same page, we'll get by just fine and we'll prosper just fine. You know, for all the resources and things that we have, there's enough countries in the world that you can, if you get enough together, you can pool your resources and be just fine without what America provides to the rest of the world. You know, so I don't get why he feels like we need to like be this like standalone entity, like we're some. Um, I feel like he feels like America is kind of like the creditor in the world, or like basically the people who are looking to get credit to buy a home or to get a mortgage and things like that. And without America, you're not going to make that happen. It's like, no, economies across the world have built themselves to a more self-sufficient level where they're good without us.
But in his defense, I feel like a lot of people feel that way as far as America's involvement with other countries, as far as partnerships and whatever other kind of involvements we may have. They do feel like we should be more isolated, because I think this just goes to an understanding of this goes to a lack of understanding in the American public of the importance of these types of relationships. They actively think that we shouldn't have them in some cases. And maybe we just don't do enough in school to talk about why these types of things are important, because I can tell a lot of people agree with him. Like, they don't have an appreciation for why we do this type of stuff, why this is good, not just for those other countries of the world, but for us.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting going through this year, because some of the things that he said as his agenda, the infrastructure thing, the reinforcement of America first, the whole we need to renegotiate all these deals so they're more quote unquote fair. The unbelievable level of, yeah, if you're an immigrant, you're killing Americans, so we need to get rid of you.
Yeah,
type mentality.
Bring that up, his constant pointing at MS-13 and their violent acts, seeming to make, he did not explicitly make this claim, but he kept seeming to imply that MS-13 was like primarily made of illegal immigrants who've crossed the border or something, which I don't know about that. I don't know any numbers or anything on that I can reference, so I can't comment on that, but he kept pushing this. You know, he brought up a couple of parents who I think their daughter was killed by an MS-13 member, which was tasteful, by the way.
Right.
I mean, all this to kind of, you know, bolster his position on building this giant fucking wall that he needs.
Yeah.
It was disgusting and blatant. And the sad thing is, I do think a lot of us would be fairly reasonable on, you know, immigration reform, finding better ways to secure the border. I mean, I know if you go like to the extreme left, maybe there's some people who do want open borders, but that's not most Americans. I think most Americans would acknowledge that we could tighten border security and make sure people come in the legal way.
Yeah.
But instead of having an adult conversation, he wants to build a giant fucking wall. Like,
yeah, it's I just don't understand like the logic and the reason. And I have to say, I'm disgusted with damn near everybody who stood up and clapped and the rabble rousing that was going on in the crowd. People were like, yeah, the USA chant disgusted me.
Yeah, they did it a few times. I was like, oh my God.
It's like, yeah, am I trying to say I don't like America? No, it's just like at the points where he was saying these things, he was basically spurring, you know, isolation and separatism. Yet these people were just loving it and acting like they were eating it up. And
he was giving them their America back. And again, all the while bringing up these people with tragic stories, which, don't get me wrong, I know politicians do that sometimes, but it's not appropriate when they do it either. And he did it a lot. Right?
No,
So,
the whole night was basically centered around him trying to pull at heartstrings to make you understand his position. And it's like, I get it. I feel for the like family whose daughter got killed by, MS-13. I'm happy to see like there's soldiers out there doing great things, um, helping people, saving each other, helping to make the world a better place. I'm appreciative of people who were fighting the wildfires and stuff like that. That being said, don't sit here and tell me that I don't care about the country if I was one of those people who didn't stand during the national anthem. It's like you keep throwing these things and you throw like, and you must not care about the country if you don't stand for the national anthem. It's like you totally missed the point. It's not like they were standing for the national anthem because they don't care about this country. It's because they want things to be better for them in this. They want equality for certain people in this country, and they need people to pay attention to the message that they're trying to send by drawing attention to that moment. But it's just like he just totally decided to go back into a running fight with NFL players for what? You don't understand the point. You never got the point in the beginning. So why you keep bringing this up?
I mean, the ideas aside, the fact that he brought this up during the State of the Union was just disgusting. It wasn't unifying in any way. It was fucking childish, let's be honest. And just to touch on that point, more generally, people, especially on the right, need to stop thinking that worship of symbols of America is the same as patriotism, all right? Jerking off to the flag is not patriotism. Neither is crying when our songs come on. Patriotism is not paying homage to symbols. It's embracing American ideologies, the things that make this country great. Being able to, I was going to say stand up, but kneel in protest. Being able to do things that you could not do within more fascist regimes and shit like that. Like, they don't really appreciate the things that actually make America special historically. There's more liberal countries out there, liberal democracies out there now, and they're doing well, like Germany and whatnot. But America was fairly special because we were unique in that regard. The thing that makes America so wonderful is the exact thing you guys keep fucking complaining about. And what you're upset with is that we're not paying homage to symbols instead of ideas. I mean, these are just fucking symbols, right? You're not honoring soldiers because you wrap yourself up in a flag and feel all warm and cozy at night. You need to start separating these trinkets, the flag, the songs, hand on the heart. These are just symbols. They don't mean all that much. I've even seen soldiers, on social media complain about this. I was on Facebook and I saw some video of some kid. He knocked over some other kid who didn't stand for like the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever. And they were talking in the comment section, and the soldiers like, as somebody who's fought and bled for this country, you're not honoring me when you bully people who choose not to stand. You pretty much said you're not acknowledging their freedoms, which is what we were really fighting for in the first place. I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand what it is that actually makes America wonderful and stop freaking out about this symbol worship they have. I talked on that point too long.
No, you did. You could keep going as far as I'm concerned, because it's like the point needs to be driven in that, and it's something that I think a lot of people have missed in the whole thing with the NFL debate and all of that. And in a lot of these debates is that being American doesn't mean that you have a checklist of things that you are required to do or that must be done to prove that you're an American and that you care about this country and that you give a fuck about this country and the ideology that made people love this country. It's like you were saying how you have more liberal countries like Germany. There was a time where we inspired countries like Germany and things like that to do these things. It's like, look at what's going on in Iran right now with the protests and things like that. They're inspired to be more, democratic and liberal towards how they look at things, and that people want a change in the way things are ran. And a lot of the ideas that they're looking towards are things that we held to for years. And it's like, I feel like instead of embracing what America really is, he kind of is just trying to go back to what a lot of people wish America was, or like what a lot of people think America should be, and things that years ago kind of disgraced this country, kind of made it something that we really shouldn't be proud of, and that we've stopped being proud of, and we were ashamed of. It's like you're rolling the clock back instead of moving things forward, which is what should be. Things should evolve. Things should get better. And it's like, no, you just want to go back to the way it was. Yeah. It's like, no, it's too much has passed in this world. Too many things have happened where you can't do that, and you shouldn't want to do that, but he does.
And it goes back to the nationalism thing too. Like, he has these bad instincts, but it's not just him. It's a significant portion of the American people who I just don't think are well educated. When I was growing up, one thing I noticed about the Republican right of this country is that they were always slamming Democrats and people on the left for not loving this country, not appreciating what's great about this country. And in some small way, they were right sometimes, because I don't think a lot of those people really appreciated what did make America special. They were always like, oh, America's just another place. They were willing to equate us with far less savory other countries, places where a lot of terrorism and fascism and shit happens. America's not perfect, but they never seem to acknowledge the things we did right. That is something I could acknowledge that happened a lot on the left. But the right doesn't really understand what makes America great either, because while they claim to love the country more than the left, really, again, they just love the idea of prostrating themselves and showing off how much they love America. That's why you see these people out there with the red, white, and blue shorts, all this American Eagles stuff on their car. Like, I agree with them that people on the left didn't appreciate the country, but people on the right didn't appreciate the country in the right way. They don't care ideologically about what makes the country special on either side. And I think that's a huge part of this issue with this kneeling thing that they don't seem to understand, because they don't understand what makes the country great in the first place. What they're complaining about, they have this, I wasn't going to say fascist, this, oh my God, what is the word I'm looking for? There's a political term for it, but they have a terrible instinct when it comes to embracing freedoms. They don't seem to understand that freedoms have to apply even to people you don't fucking agree with. And they have this instinct to want to shut down any form of protest, which is what you see, I don't want to use the word, but in more fascist regimes. They do not embrace what makes America special. But let's see, hopping off that, I think, did we talk about his claim that he was going to cut chain migration?
No, we didn't.
Okay, I did want to pick your brain on that, because he brought it up, and apparently it was met with a lot of boos.
Yeah, people booed that because it was kind of his hit on DACA. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's like all this talk about like how he's not going to sign DACA unless he gets his wall and stuff like that. I really believe that was his shot across the bow, that he was just basically, I guess, kind of reaffirming that idea by just putting out there like, yeah, it's not going to happen. We're going to get rid of like the lottery and things, because he mentioned the lottery system, how unfair the lottery system was. And yeah, the lottery system's not the perfect thing.
But he was throwing out blatant lies about the lottery system, that it was done without any thought about safety. He made it sound like there was no vetting in the system.
Right.
There was no consideration of people with education or training of any kind. This shit is just not true. And he just said, these were bold-faced fucking lies. These weren't even mildly dishonest. He said several lies about that whole system. As imperfect as it might be, he was not telling the truth on several parts of that thing. That was disgraceful.
Yeah, he was trying to make the lottery system seem like, oddly enough, the lottery system that most states is to pay $1 to get a ticket and like maybe you'll have a chance. It's not that simplistic. But he wanted to try to frame it into like this unfair, like archaic system that doesn't take into account anything except for you put your name in a hat and we shake it up and then whatever happens happen. It's like, no, it's not that goddamn simple, and I don't understand all the endings. Like I said, and I understand how some of it can be imperfect because it's not like you're going to always pick the right person, so to speak, maybe. Um,
I don't
but
know.
that's just, but I think it's I'm not like him. I don't have a bleak like outlook. Like I said again, like if I give you $10 and I don't win, the system's rigged type of thing in a bad way.
Yeah. And we could talk about introducing a better system, a more refined one. But before we do that, you need to stop lying about the system that's in place. It's not like these countries gather together a pool of criminals, which he has, I'm pretty sure, implied on other occasions, and then just pick the lottery from there. Even America has a hand in vetting these motherfuckers quite stringently. It's not. He lies about this thing over and over and over again with impunity. He's never truly punished for these fucking lies, and they're blatant.
Yeah, I remember somebody tweeting that how it's funny. It was a Canadian saying, "Oh, Canada has worse immigrations than we do." And so I looked that up, and it's like pretty much our immigration system was on par. I think the one biggest glaring thing is that there seems to be a higher rate of people coming into Canada that have a more economic benefit, as in they tend to pick people who are going to come and do certain jobs that would benefit their economy more than we do.
Yeah,
but
more focused on like family reunification or whatever.
Yeah, but Trump seems to like make it seem like we're just like, if you get your name pulled in the hat, you can come in, fine. You can send every criminal you want, we'll let them in. And it's like, no, we just have a different focus. We want to like make sure families stay intact, which there's nothing wrong with that. Now, it's just like if I move to Florida and a cousin of mine who sells drugs decide I'm going to move to Florida because Mike's down there and I have family down there. That's not me trying to bring a drug dealer there. That's someone else who is doing something wrong. He may not admit that he's doing something wrong. That's the thing. You're going to get people who are going to be bad people. It's the people will lie, just like he lies.
Nobody lies like he lies.
To gain advantages. But I really do think that the system is set up to where they actually do try to at least, avoid that. And you're not going to always get a perfect, situation all that. It's just, who knows? That person could come in this country with good intentions, with high education, and not be able to find certain work and might end up going that route if they want to. I don't know. It's a weird thing for me to understand with him making that argument because, yeah, it's not like we have an open policy that's like we don't care who you are. You can be disgusting and we'll still let you in. It's not like we're just blanketing like, things with no rules.
I mean, our vetting policy is fairly, I don't know if strict is the right word. It's not just like anybody can just waltz in.
It's stringent. Like it's very stringent.
Because he's done this a lot. He's making the point like all these criminals are just walking in and stepping all over. It's like, that's complete bullshit. And it's just like the wall thing, Again, most reasonable Americans I think will agree to a reasonable border immigration control of some kind. I don't think most people are advocates of free and open borders and everybody will walk across with no tracking of any kind. The same thing with this chain migration thing. I mean, I could see an argument for limiting it to just the nuclear family, like your parents or your children or something. I can see not wanting like your third fucking cousin coming in just because they're chained to you. That's not inherently unreasonable. But he always has to take these extreme positions on matters that make it impossible to deal with. We can talk about whatever, limiting how far out the chains can go, but that's not what he's doing, not in any mature sense. He's just like, fuck this, we're not doing this. There's no moderate middle ground with this motherfucker that you can stand on with him.
You know, what you just said was like very true. If he would have came out and said it should be more about keeping nuclear families together and not moving beyond that, I could agree with that. That's something like, you know, I wouldn't even say that's a compromise. I would say that's actually a sensible direction to go to kind of limit things because, you know, you don't want to break up that nuclear family. You don't want a kid in this country by themselves like he's doing now with the whole immigration thing, with them sending, you know, breaking up families due to DACA, where fathers and mothers are being sent home while the kids are sat here. And it's like, who's going to take care of the kids? You know,
our fucking government, I guess.
Right. Because you want to get, because like, okay, the whole thing with the nuclear family, with the way it is now, how he feels like they're just letting any and everybody in. Okay, so they've let some cousins in. Are you going to let those cousins maintain their status here so they can take care of the kids because you sent mom and dad away? Or are you going to send the cousins too? Like, how far are you going to go to like disrupt this thing to where you're going to end up in a situation like you just said? Are we going to be taking care of these kids?
Or are we going to send them back too? I mean, certainly there's more corner case situations, like maybe the parents aren't alive and, you know, maybe the cousin has always been the main caretaker. So I think the main goal is to have some sort of smaller, reasonable sized nuclear unit. And that seems fair and moderate. I mean, it's, and to be clear, I don't really know how much of a problem this whole chain migration thing really is. I don't know how big of an impact that has, how far reaching that is, but if you just came with a reasonable, logical set of rules on this, I don't think you get that much opposition. Not from reasonable people, at least. It's not insane to say the chains have to stop somewhere, otherwise you're just going to branch out to that whole continent or some shit. That's not unreasonable. So why do you have to keep attacking these people as criminals and people invading and leeching off the country all the time? You're creating an untenable position for no reason.
Yeah, it's like his points are just, and I want to say this too. I'm very, very disgusted with a lot of those people who attended that. I feel very shameful that people were cheering those points that he was making and were getting really, really hyped for them. I understand part of why they do what they do when it comes to him, because it's just like in the beginning with the whole round of applause for him coming out and how they just went way too long with the ovation for him. It's because this guy's a child, and the best way to get to him is to praise. He a huge amount of praise on him to make him feel good about himself. But I felt like all during the night, like they were cheering for points that had no reason that you need to keep standing up and cheering. It's like he wasn't really saying anything. It's just like, okay, I kind of understand the thing with, him thanking the people that he told stories about. Mm-hmm. But it was just like, I noticed there was one point where like when he was going over his quote unquote accomplishments, it was like every other thing they stood and applauded, and it's like, can't you let him finish?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because I never watched. You know, again, I think we talked about it while we were watching it. I've seen parts of other State of the Union addresses, but I never watched one in its totality, especially live. So I was watching that. I'm like, is it normal for them to just stop and cheer every 2 minutes like this?
No, it's not. It really is not. They were hamming it up. They were seriously hamming the fuck out of that situation.
Yeah, because I think one of those spots was like, our troops have changed their rules of whatever. He was saying something about some tactics the troops have changed, and he didn't even say what it was. Like, they interrupted him and started clapping, and it's like, you don't even know what he was going to say.
Troops, engagement, yeah, like.
I thought maybe something muted for a second, but why did they just start clapping like that? He didn't even say what he was going to say.
Yeah, he wouldn't even finish points, and they would start clapping. It was just very dumbfounding because it's like y'all aren't even. He's not even making a point. He's not even finishing a thought, and you're just like ready to jump up, and you got the people in the back yelling. It's like, did he do the Microsoft conference thing where he seated the audience with like people so to make sure that they would cheer? And then if you notice when they panned the camera out in some instances, when people stood up or when people started to clap, you could see the like forced claps by certain people, and then everybody else was like, yeah, like, yeah, I guess I should clap. It was just like they were really, really trying to emphasize how happy they were with everything he was saying. And it was disingenuous. It was disgusting. And it was just not cool.
I didn't write them down, but there were certainly a couple spots where I think he was expecting clapping and didn't get it. So there was like a couple awkward pauses in there. Like,
yeah,
he was waiting for a clap. I'm like, I don't know. I wish I would have written it down because it was one. I'm like, I don't know why you expect anybody to cheer that. And then he just.
But he should expect it because again, they set the precedent by doing the unnecessary clapping at moments when you don't need to. When like he didn't complete the whole arc of the points that he was trying to drive. The fact that they gave him the wherewithal to feel like, yeah, just about every other thing I say, and if I put emphasis on it, you're gonna get up and clap because I didn't even put emphasis on certain things. You got up and clap, so this will really get you to clap. You know what I mean?
And a couple times he went for that shit on purpose because I remember there was a couple times where they were already clapping, and then right when they finished, he would say something like, good job to whatever soldier he was just referencing to make them clap again right after. Like,
yeah,
I saw them like, you're doing that shit on purpose. You just wanted more claps. Fuck you.
Yeah, instead of just moving on to the point and keeping things progressing, he would sit at certain moments that got the big pop, and like he would try to throw in as a joke to give, and then they would laugh. He's like, yeah, yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah, you like that. Yeah, you really, really like that. Like.
And now look what's trending on Facebook: Guantanamo Bay detention camp.
Joe, that was the third thing that blew my mind. The first, of course, was the 1.5 trillion. The second, like you said, what was the thing that you said? Damn, I'm
nuclear weapons.
Yeah, the nuclear weapons thing. And the third was the Guantanamo Bay thing. I fucking actually stood up. It was like, you're opening what back up for what now?
I remember my jaw dropping when he said that. I'm like, this dude is going balls out. I mean, that's a fairly controversial topic, and he just said it like.
I feel like that was an off the script moment. I don't think that was on the teleprompter. I don't think that was something that was actually. I think that was just something that he just thought of and just decided, I'm gonna put this on the table.
He say, like, was that the thing that he said like right before people walking in there? He signed like the order to keep that open. Or no, maybe that was something else. He signed some guy into another position. I don't remember, but it was recently that he decided to do that shit. I'm just like, this is the first I'm hearing about this. And
yeah, no, it was.
You're saying this like it has universal agreement from everybody. Like,
yeah, and again, I go back to the whole Paul Ryan is a G because his face didn't crack. I was really waiting for Paul Ryan to be like, what? Like, and again, this was one of those things where you got the applause, but it was one of those delayed kind of, yeah, kind of applauses, because it was just like, I don't think anybody was expecting him to say that. And that's where you got like the few people who were just like, oh yeah, like trying to like get them to clap. It's like, yeah, no, nobody asked for this. Like there's no necessary reason why Guantanamo Bay. It's like, again, it goes back to your whole worshiping symbols thing. Maybe he thinks that Guantanamo Bay is a symbol of fighting terrorism in his mind. I don't understand.
I mean, one of his statements during that little diatribe was something like, we're going to treat terrorists the way they deserve to be treated over there, or some shit like that. He was harping on this point of really sticking it to terrorists, you know, putting that boot up their ass. Just, I can't remember his exact wording, but he seemed to think we were a little too nice to terrorists.
Well, that's the thing. We were doing abusive things that probably weren't necessary in Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay, its reputation isn't vaunted in the war on terrorism. So why do you think that this was a big celebratory moment?
I mean, we had people in there without any real criminal charges or anything, right? Who?
Yeah, there were just people who were just sitting there who were suspected of terrorism or like possibly identified as being a part of groups, and we were doing things to them, and we were holding over proceedings, not putting them through the system and actually trying them for anything. They were just there because we said you're a terrorist, or we think you're a terrorist, so we're just going to keep you here until we decide what to do with you, kind of thing.
That was one of the biggest controversies about it. It's this, if it's a symbol of anything, it's a symbol of ignoring how our justice system should work by just fucking working around it. Like, hey, he's a terrorist, so we'd have to put him through the proper paces here.
Also, what's happening with the facilities that we opened in the country during Obama's presidency that were to be the transitionary places where we were supposed to sit in the, so did we spend that money to create homeland facilities for nothing?
I guess. Yeah, no, again, guys, he just said that shit like an hour ago, so I don't know that either of us have had a chance to do any reading on. Okay, this came out of fucking, maybe you knew about it. This came out of nowhere.
No, I didn't. That's why I said I literally stood up and went, what? When he said that, because I had no clue about any. This is he basically broke a like new agenda right before our eyes. It's like the infrastructure thing. Yeah, that's been a big debate. That's been one of the things that's been on the table, and that's been argued over for the last decade and has not been properly addressed. So that I expected. We already knew his political stance on immigration and things like that. That didn't catch me off guard. The nuclear thing, even though it fucking made me go, what? We already knew that this guy has a hard on for fucking nuclear bombs. So even that wasn't a big surprise, but it's like the Guantanamo Bay. It's like, who the fuck was thinking or worrying about Guantanamo Bay? Nobody. It was not mentioned in any. It was not mentioned by the GOP. It wasn't a worry of the Democrats that he was going to be bringing this back up. Political pundits never thought about, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had Guantanamo Bay back? Nobody was thinking about Guantanamo Bay. Where that came from, I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this shit. I guess we're gonna have to see over the next couple of days where the fuck he's going with this. I would be surprised if the GOP people knew. I mean, he made it sound like a major agenda point, but yeah, it's the first time any of us are hearing about it. So
yeah, and it was in a way because again, like I said, he stretched and bullshitted through a lot of speech. And as far as agenda, he didn't really press anything. He regurgitated a couple of things that he believed in, like the immigration thing, but he didn't necessarily set a new agenda and give like a plan of action for the coming year or the rest of his presidency, you know. So this was probably the one thing that you could say he actually totally addressed, but did he need to address it? Because do we care about Guantanamo Bay? Question mark.
do now. I mean, we have, but he certainly brought it back to the public's attention tonight because to the extent that the public stopped thinking about it, I guess because Obama had been trying to do away with it and thus far failed for whatever reasons.
It was honestly done. Nobody cared about Guantanamo Bay. Again, like I said, we've had facilities built in this country that like could take care of housing terrorists. It wasn't a major like bullet point in the political agenda for anybody. Like I said, GOP or Democrats. Guantanamo Bay was done. Nobody was. I highly doubt that people, be it politically or publicly, were just sitting in the back being like, you know, Roy Moore in Alabama with his whole, you know, remember when there was only 10 amendments, things were better and we treated each other kind. Nobody was sitting on their porch was like, gosh, remember when Guantanamo Bay was open? Those were the days.
Shit. I'm still flabbergasted by that and the nuke thing. And the only reason I'm not flabbergasted about the trillion thing was just because I didn't hear that part. So that's really the only reason that I didn't bring that up too, because I must have stepped away when he said that for a second. But
yeah, no, that really flabbergasted me because it's like all he's done is try to cut budgets of certain things that are like socially and in ways economically important, like the education thing. You know, your economy grows when you have more skilled workers who are able to take care of jobs and handle things to help grow things and innovate and have certain technologies and functions evolve. But he don't want to spend money on that. He gets rid of the money funding for the arts because who needs to be creative? Who needs creative minds after all?
I think his mind is pretty creative because he fabricates a ton of bullshit.
Yeah, definitely. But it's like you kept talking about how government spending is ridiculous and we need to like get rid of special interest stuff and we need to like be more fiscally responsible, you know, which is usually the agenda for the GOP is to be more fiscally responsible. And you just like threw right on the table. Yeah, let's spend way more money than we need to do this and ratchet up things and have more bills.
And again, same with the immigration thing, same with this chain migration thing. There's reasonable conversations you could have there. We do have infrastructure problems and we have had them. We should be addressing that shit.
Trust me, I'm about to spend $1,000 on my car because of my infrastructure problem. So yeah.
But again, it's the same fucking guy who's this fucking guy who doesn't want anybody to pay any fucking taxes, but wants, I guess, to pull out of his own ass money to pay for all this stuff. These are not compatible ideas that people shouldn't pay taxes and the American government should somehow have the money to do this stuff. I don't know. I don't know if the American people understand where the money to do government shit comes from.
Yeah, and now that he's talking about the tax cuts and we don't have to pay more taxes, yeah. We're not investing more into this country tax-wise, so who the fuck's paying for this shit?
I feel bad for Mexico, dog. They have to pay for a wall and the roads. God dang.
Right, exactly. Which, you know, to bring to the point a poor joke. Why you want to stop bringing in immigrants when they're the cheapest labor possible to fucking do all this work that you want us to do? Because ain't no fucking Americans gonna be like taking bullshit pay to do this shit. So if you really are about fiscal responsibility and trying to get things done, probably want to start getting those like people that you don't want in this country. Because yeah, I'm not building a road for fucking dirt cheap.
You have to be a gangbanger and a rapist to do that.
Yeah, so shit. Yeah, you better call the MS-13 and ask them if they want to legitimize themselves.
Oh my God.
Like, you can just do your crime on the side of the road as you build it, okay?
So I noticed a couple of the news networks, leading into this event, give a bit of a warning about mistaking what would have seemed like a somewhat, what's the word I'm looking for, calm tone out of this man as him finally becoming presidential, because we've done this a lot over the last couple of years where he'll give a speech and it isn't as bad as most of his psychotic ramblings in most speeches, and then we're like, he was a calm human today. Oh my God, he's so great. We start, the right starts jerking him off even harder than usual in the left because they are just desperate to find something good about this fucking guy. They just, and I obviously get the inclination to do that. I pride myself on being, charitable even to those I disagree with in the extreme. And this motherfucker's pretty extreme in my book, but I wonder if enough people heard that warning and took it to heart, because I worry that I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and people are going to be like, we have a president. He's not a psycho. See, he wasn't screaming a bunch of crazy shit today. For the bar on the presidency is so fucking low nowadays. When you can give a speech from a teleprompter and not like freak out too bad.
Yeah.
Because as much as we complain about today, it was a fairly good day for the president.
I disagree, because he slipped into his routine, his shenanigans. Like when he was throwing out the jokes.
Yeah, I will say I was expecting him to be more serious than he was, but he was more serious than he normally is.
And that's sad that that's all you can hope for.
Hey, yeah, I guess that's the point I was making, because going into this, we were all like, well, he's going to pretend to be serious for a day and then he's going to go back to normal. And he did pretend to be a bit serious, but he couldn't even manage to be fully serious. And I can still see people, because they're so used to the low bar that he set, the fact that he went like a couple inches higher today is going to look like a massive achievement to them again. I really hope I don't wake up in the morning and see the news coverage on this being
I don't need like that last speech where they were like, he showed he's more presidential. He's being I don't think that's gonna happen.
He became the president today.
Like, so November of last year made any, like, it's like, election day didn't mean anything because today we vote. He was president.
Yes, he became president. Like, Jesus. Like, and again, I could be just cynical, but I have feared that since I realized that the State of the Union thing was coming up, because I was like, we do this shit with him all the time. Again, he has his supporters that are going to love him no matter what. And the rest of us, especially, people in news who try to maintain their credibility, are so desperate to find something about this motherfucker that is okay. So when you're saying all that bad shit, you can say, but to be fair, blah, blah, blah. And it's really fucking hard with this guy. Again, like, I pride myself on being as fair as possible, even with ideas I disagree with in the extreme. And I find it nearly impossible to ever say anything positive about this motherfucker. And by nearly, I mean impossible because I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
He makes it very hard to. Because the thing is, you don't have to lie. That's my biggest thing. You don't necessarily, I mean, look, every president who's done a State of the Union has stretched the truth. Hell, when you say the State of the Union is strong, you're lying off the top anyway. That's just about for every president because there are always issues. And to say that, that's disingenuous. Anyway, so let's be clear about that. I'm talking Obama, Bush, Clinton, other Bush, Reagan, Carter, every president. Okay. That being said, there are just certain things that you don't have to overcompensate for. And that's his thing. He overcompensates so much with his lies. It's like you don't have to, like, you have things like the tax thing. You see the tax thing as a positive, that's fine. You could build that up. You don't have to grab numbers and associate them with you when people can fact check them. It's like certain things that can be easily fact checked because even I could say, in all honesty, even with the way that people think the tax thing is going to go bad, we still have yet to see whether or not it will eventually go bad. So you can play up that whole we made a significant tax cut that will make America better because it's nothing I can't dispute until history has shown that. But the things that he would bring up, history's already disputed them. So it's like, why do you feel the need to lie? Don't do that. And that's the thing. It's like, I want to give people, like you said, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. But he makes it so hard because he just goes full court press with all of these fucking lies and misdirection. It's like, I can't. I can't. I really can't relax and give you credit where credit's due when you actually, even if you do something well, because I'm just expecting you to do 5 things like worse.
Even I can't think of anything off the top of my head he did all that well, but even if he did do something well, you can almost guarantee it's for a stupid reason. Like it's well by happenstance. And I talk about giving people the benefit of the doubt and being charitable in conversations and stuff. I do feel like that's something a lot of us have become absolutely terrible at doing. That said, Trump has established himself as not worth the charity for at least these 2 years and longer if you've been following him in public life. I mean, he breaks my heart, man. I try with every instance to come at him with fairness, and I'm like, this guy's just a fucking idiot. And it is to such an extreme that I think it's part of the problem because, all politicians lie a little bit. As cool as Obama was, he said some things that might not have been the most truthful here and there. Politicians lie now and again.
Yeah.
But people use that fact to make it seem like, well, so what if Trump lies? All politicians lie. Humans don't lie like this. I mean, he lies about shit that nobody cares about, that we only even start talking about because he bothered to lie about it. This 3 million illegal voters. It didn't rain on my inauguration day. Like, shit that nobody would even be thinking about if he didn't lie about it for no reason.
Yeah.
A good third of the shit that he has to deal with on a daily basis is his own fault because he feels the need to come out of nowhere unprovoked and lie about it.
Yeah, no, he spends way too much time trying to build some type of, I don't know what he thinks it is. Like, I know it's trying to build up a good reputation and a good image for himself, but he does himself a disservice because it's not like he's not pointing to something good that he actually did. He's just taking credit for everything or he's pretending that he did something that he didn't do by just fabricating these like fantasies. Just like I don't know if you saw the tweet the other day. What was he saying? Um, it was something that his response was, "Oh, people are honoring me for this by mentioning me," and it was I forget exactly what it was, but it was like the point that they were making had nothing to do with him.
The Women's
But
March.
huh? Yeah, the Women's March.
Yeah.
He was like, "Thank you
That
for
shit was
coming out
dope.
and marching for me by by celebrating the fact that women's employment is up
Yo,
since I've been in office." It's like
that shit was
dude.
amazing. I happened to be on Twitter and saw that shit like right when he tweeted it, like within a couple minutes. I was like, this mother. I think I actually clapped. I was like, this motherfucker is great. Oh my. That is the most petty thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's like the thing had nothing. Well, I won't say it had nothing to do with him, but it had nothing to do with him in a positive light. Yet he somehow spun it so fucking hard that he was able to find himself on top in his mind. Like, yeah, these women really love me. It's like, have you not been around for the last 20 years of your life? What?
In fact, I found it too. Beautiful weather all over our great country. A perfect day for all women to march. Get out there now to celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place over the last 12 months. Lowest female unemployment in 18 years. This motherfucker is amazing.
Everybody knew that this march was about inequality, inequity, like wanting better for women and denouncing people like him who've done deprecating things towards females. It's like, yeah, thank you for loving me. What? Like
this, like, as disgusting as it was, I have to admit, I just laughed when I read that because I was like, the fucking balls on this guy. Come on.
He's an amazing.
I've never seen an adult act that petty before.
He is an amazing creature that and not for good reasons. He's something special, and I wish he was something special somewhere else. I really do.
But yeah, this idea again. I hope we don't hear in the morning. Look how great he was. He talked like an adult. Hashtag accomplishments. And so to your point, and my point, I guess, he didn't even talk in a way that was mature up to my expectations of him, which were already pretty low. Like, I expected him to be tempered because he was reading off of something as opposed to shooting from the hip. And I assume people were going to keep yelling at him to, like, stop freaking out. This is the State of the Union. Let's look good today. So I expected him to take it mostly serious. And even then, he still kind of under-delivered on my already low expectations by taking shots at dreamers, and he took shots at lots of people, actually. Our allies, North Korea, people taking a knee. He got his shit in. Because he had to, I guess. He couldn't help himself.
No, he couldn't.
Even of my low expectations, he still didn't meet them. So I really hope I'm out of here eating shit tomorrow about how great this was.
Yeah, well, you are if you watch Fox. Or if you were me watching ABC. ABC actually had Chris Christie there as one of the people, and he loves to shine Trump, even though Trump shits on him constantly. And he was doing his best spin on things. He was trying to be like, yeah, he wasn't as partisan, but yeah, he did a great job. Like, shut up. You're not getting a government position again, so I don't know why you keep trying, sir. You're his bitch. Stop it.
I mean, but as we're wrapping up, that's what we saw from the whole Republican Party tonight. I think that was one of the most
No,
unsettling
I won't say
parts.
what we say from the whole, because again, go
Majority.
back and look at the applause and when they showed the crowd.
Okay.
There were a lot of seated people, and it wasn't just like it was a whole bunch of Democrats that were seated, because a lot of Democratic and liberal people, including some of the justices of the Supreme Court and other people of important positions within the government, refused to show up to that thing.
Right.
So he kind of had a full house when it comes to like whether equating the opposition versus people who supported him, and he didn't have a lot of support in that as much as he probably is going to spend it because you heard the claps. But when they showed the crowd, you realize that as loud as some of those claps were, it was just a handful of people really pouring it on, because there was a lot of people who were comfortable with that.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe saying all was a bit of a stretch, but you saw a significant number of people praising the dear leader, I guess. I mean, he has really conquered this party in a way that is, I feel like the way that he was getting support out of these guys, clapping before he even finishes his sentence. They were standing up so much, I thought they were like working on their quads or something with some squats and shit. Like, just stand up, sit down, clap, this cycle over and over. The way he has gotten them and their loyalty, gotten them to kiss his ass nonstop, is disturbing, and we saw some of it tonight. And I feel like people are going to gloss over the fact because the talk was so long, maybe they didn't notice or they got used to it. But it made me uncomfortable throughout the night to watch them on their knees for an hour and a half with this guy.
Yeah, no.
And we're not talking about it today, but especially as we go into this whole fucking issue with, as we go further with this Russian investigation and we watch their party continue to sow chaos and distrust in the public around this issue, spreading conspiracy theories further and further. That was one of the things that disturbed me most about the night, is watching them in person do this for this guy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially with the quote-unquote agendas that he set forth, how things are going to go. I honestly think, like, Paul Ryan's going to quit soon. Because he's probably, I feel like he's like, yo, I hit my high note, and this motherfucker has now thrown trillions of dollars for me to figure out how to, fit into this budget. I ain't gonna be bothered with this. I'm out. I really feel like he's gonna go. The fact that the Senate and the House aren't cooperating between each other right now, especially the fact that part of it is over a memo that these two are debating on, shows that GOP leadership is completely fragmented, and getting on board with the things that he wants isn't going to be as easy as he probably wishes it would be. So I hate to say this way, but after tonight, I feel like we're going to have a worse year than we did last year.
I talked about being charitable, and so I want to run this by you because I'm wondering if I'm being unfair here. I feel like he visually threw up more black people than, like, he purposely threw up a decent amount of black people.
Did enough. He met the EEOE requirements. He did the equal opportunity thing.
I feel like I saw a lot more black people in his little address than I was expecting. And
you saw 3 significant stories pertaining to black people, which is a record for him. And I think that's why he made the biggest point of doing that with the family whose daughter got killed by the MS-13, because it's an easy layup. It's like, see, it's not just white people who they're fucking with. They're fucking with you too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because if he would just stone up a like white family, people would have been like, "Well, okay, we're sorry," but you could kind of say that he's basically just stirring the whole racial pot. But I feel like he felt like by putting this black family, I deflect some of the racism in my comments because they didn't come after just the white people, and I'm not just trying to protect white people. I'm protecting all people because he made a point of saying a couple of times, like how he tried to say Americans of all colors and background and things like that. The whole spiel about like everybody should have the opportunity to succeed and all that. That's when I said to you, oh, he's telling us all to step up, I guess, in his mind, because it's just like he basically just used a very cliched statement. The whole life, liberty, pursuit of happiness thing. That's just, just a blanket, thing to like, see, I want everybody to do okay.
But it wasn't even just that. Like, he did that as part of his whole "I'm making the economy great." Like, I made the economy great. Now you can achieve your dreams. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like with the whole, thing about the, black people and women having lower unemployment. It's just like, see, I helped you get better.
yes.
And now
took personal pride in the black one. I was like, fuck this guy.
Yeah. It's just like there's so many other like things that have happened in time that, yeah, no, you didn't just step on the scene and be like, I declare all black people and all women, jobs
employed.
Yeah, like boom, like
there you go.
It's like he's the Pope blessing somebody. Like, I decree, you shall have jobs. Amen.
Minor point: his wife apparently did not go with him to that place. Apparently, breaking some sort of first lady tradition. I didn't get to read the full article, but
yeah, basically, she went in a separate car. They're publicly given reason was that she was just arriving with guests that they invited. She chose to go to accompany the guests of theirs to the inauguration.
This guy fucked a porn star while his wife gave birth, dog.
Exactly. We all know that she's made no attempt of being with him in any public capacity. And what was the last time that they've been together in any significant capacity? Was
it their trip to
the Middle East?
I think
and so. I think the last public appearance that I can recall of them being together was the Christmas tree lighting, which that's kind of like a mandatory thing. So, but yeah, she don't go with him anywhere. Now, I will say this, to be fair with him, Michelle Obama and Laura Bush didn't always go everywhere their husbands went. That being said, in events and times like this, and in certain key events, they always was with them.
I mean, I feel like it wouldn't have been too noticeable if the story about him fucking a porn star wasn't out there, and we haven't seen them together once in like a long time.
Yeah, ever since this is broke, you haven't seen her make a comment really, or like come out and really speak on the issue and show support for him and all that. Yeah. Honestly, since he's been in office, her whole capacity has just been basically non-existent.
Yeah. But I only say that to bring up a point about this presidency. We spent just now about an hour and a half talking about Trump, and we didn't even mention, until I just did because I'm petty like that, the fact that this dude in the news right now apparently paid off a porn star like $130,000. Fuck me, I wish I had that money. Not that sex with him though.
That's what I was just about to say.
Fast, never mind.
Be careful with that statement about "fuck me," because he might be like, "Oh, really?"
The chalk is too rich, bro. I mean, there is this story right now out that he paid off this porn star a significant amount of money because he fucked her right around the time his wife was giving birth to his like 50th kid. And it's not even worth talking about. What happened in the good old days when Obama wearing the wrong color suit was like a week's worth of news?
But no, you know what's worse about the whole situation is that things like that, like, okay, the Hillary and the Benghazi thing, you have deflection with her when it comes to like, okay, something else comes up that is more significant, that's more positive. With him, it's like I deflect bullshit by causing more bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't remove myself from the public eye by doing something that makes people say, oh yeah, well, maybe he's not as bad as we think. He just ups the ante and it's like, yo, you think I'm really bad? I'm gonna fuck some shit up really, like right now. Like
I mean, it's crazy that for the most part, we've only talked about his address tonight, which was like an hour and a half. And there's a lot of shit in the news that we did. I think we glossed over it a little bit in the beginning, but there's a lot of shit that happened in the last week.
Enough shit that happened.
All centered around him.
I think I stopped counting at 20 when I thought about the stories because I didn't send you everything, but it's about 20 at least. And remember, we just had the whole 24 like roll the week before.
Right. And yeah, so some of it was quite major revelation. So it's not like we just didn't talk about them because they weren't worth talking about. It's just
like, dude, he's fucking forcing the FBI to shut down. It's like, what the fuck? Jesus Christ.
Like, the nation is going into like a Watergate mode, and we didn't even talk about it. That's how fucking. That's the pace of things nowadays. The fact that we could be in this situation and we couldn't even talk about it today because.
Yeah, it's.
But as you know, as we finish.
And by the way, it's just Tuesday. 2 points. One, it's just Tuesday. 2, we're a year and 10 days into this presidency.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that in perspective as we finish talking about just the address, that as much as we had to talk about there's a mountain of other shit, an increasingly building mountain of other shit that we couldn't even discuss. Like, this presidency is a fucking disaster. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hillary would have been just as bad. I'm sure people think that because of what just broke in the news, which we're another thing we're not talking about.
Yeah, I know. The whole thing about how she kept on her campaign head even though he was under sexual charge. But even that's not that bad because what happens the next thing? Another thing we glossed over, the head of the DNC finances was fucking caught in sexual allegations and stepped down. The guy who was the chief chairman of the Republican National Committee is a fucking creep, and he had to quit. So it's like even the Hillary thing got, again, bad shit happens. He finds a way to find there's worse shit that happens to deflect the bad shit. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't know what's going on right now.
I can't keep up with this. Yo, just shout out to the people in the news who can keep up with this shit because I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. This is breakneck pace shit.
It has to be. I mean, it has to be exhilarating because they were actually getting to do more and like work more, but also has to be exhausting and inducing bad habits like alcoholism and possibly drug use and dysfunctional family issues because you're fucking caught up in this shitstorm and your job is to actually pay attention to this. And it's just like God bless you, April Ryan. You're an exceptional woman because you have kept yourself together even with the abuse that you've taken from this administration, on top of having to deal with the idea of having to talk about this this administration, communicate with people who support it on all these different media outlets, and have to deal with them trying to either mansplain or dismiss your. It's like you, Joy Reid, Cuomo, Jake Tapper, uh, what's her name, Maddow, all y'all. God bless you. I'm going crazy. Just
organizations, I want to give them a shout out. I want to build them back up.
Yeah, I'm going crazy just doing this fucking podcast. I can't imagine this being my permanent job. Having to deal with concerning this shit. Good Lord.
Yeah, so shout out to them. Now maybe I'll try to do better at shouting them out, because I feel like with the amount of attacking they've been getting, they fucking deserve a little more love from all of us. I think we touched on a lot of the major points he made. He made some other agenda style shit that he said some other stuff, but I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Like he had mentioned that was it America treats its poor people the best, or whatever the fuck he was talking about, and then he went on to say something. I don't know what he was talking about.
It made no sense.
Maybe I shouldn't even brought it up because I didn't know what he was getting at.
No, because I didn't get what he was getting at too. Because it's the whole. You say these things that you have no way of completely like corroborating, but you're just putting it out there because I mean, I guess it's one of those things where you could say to be homeless in America compared to being homeless in, say, Libya, where they're like picking up people and turning them into slaves is better. But it's like that doesn't mean that homeless people aren't being treated as fair as they should be.
I mean, if he said that, it would have been fine. But he said the best in the world, which includes developed nations, which is my problem with it. But yeah, around that time, he was saying stuff I didn't quite get. Like he said, we're gonna give people who've gone through jail and served their time their second chance, or whatever. We're gonna help them out. But he didn't really explain what that meant. He just said we're gonna help them out and they're going to get another chance. It was some vague shit. We're going to help poor people struggling, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, because it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to keep like barring people who've committed certain crimes from getting certain jobs? Is that what are you talking about? What?
Like he said that stuff like it was a major agenda point. We're going to help these groups of people. And first of all, I was like surprised that he would say that, because like, you care about those groups of people? You personally, and beyond that, your party gives that much of shit about that? I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick, but that's not usually their focus.
Exactly.
So it was weird that he even said that stuff. And then when he did say it, he didn't offer any details, despite the fact that he talked for an hour and a half and somehow managed to give no details on whatever the fuck he was saying.
Yeah, and that's my biggest takeaway from this whole night is that he said a lot of nothing. Because, like you said, what were the details? What were the it was like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna spend this, we're gonna spend that. He didn't tell us how he was going to do it. He didn't tell us how he was going to try to encourage us to come together, like Democrats, Republicans, to work on these things. He just said, "We're going to do it. It's fine. We're going to do it."
I don't think he intended for us to come together. I genuinely don't think he cared. I don't think he even wants to pretend to care that we come together. Yeah, he seems pretty invested in this whole, this is us, and fuck you guys, we're going to make America great again. So, but yeah, I just wanted to point out that he said some other shit that we didn't touch, but I personally didn't touch much on it because I just didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah,
it was just, I felt like that whole salesman thing, like, just throwing out these random features that maybe it doesn't, like if you're a car salesman, like, did you know this car can play MP3s and shit? No, it can't. Whatever. It's a great car. It does all this shit. That's what it felt like. He was just throwing stuff out there that was vague enough to not be committal. Like, we'll help the poor. We'll help prisoners. And it was, again, it was vague enough that it didn't really hold him to anything. So there's other stuff if you guys want to watch that address in full, but I don't know what the fuck he was telling us in those cases, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great shit is coming.
I guess for me to kind of try to kind of wind this down, I have to say this, sir. I'm very sorry that I seem to come up with these ideas that just end up just leaving both of us in a state of utter confusion, shock, and in some cases anger. Um, I did it with the book Fire Fury, which, by the way, I'm going to start listening to that other book tomorrow because I've caught up on all my podcasts, so now I can listen to that book.
Oh,
That you mentioned.
Trumpocracy.
Yeah. um, but I also would like to apologize to myself for being such a self-deprecating, like, dumbass, for putting myself through the pain of listening to that man talk for an hour and a half and absolutely say nothing but dumb shit. um, but I will also like to congratulate myself in a Trumpian move by patting myself on the back by discovering this. Again, Sky Vodka, please feel free to sponsor us and give us a, promotional deal. I will gladly accept money for you because this is actually really good. Sky Vodka infusions, Georgia Peach. You guys should try it. It's thoroughly helped me get through this tumultuous evening.
It's a fun thing. You guys should, assuming you guys haven't already watched the full address, go through and find like Democrat faces throughout. Like I sent you a video a second ago, and it's like I timestamped it at where Cory Booker's face is, and it's just like once I saw his face, I couldn't stop thinking about his face because this dude was just fuming. I don't remember what it was Trump said before we panned over.
I know. I'm looking at it now because it's like his face. It's like his. That's the definition of someone making you get tight. His face looks like he is so like. I feel like if he could have like ran up on the stage and punched Trump in the face, he might have. I forget who it was. It was a female member of Congress. I can't think of her name, and I don't know why I can't think of her name. But all night they kept panning to her, and she just had that look of like just. I guess I'm here because I have to be, or I felt like I have to be, but I really wish I was home watching something else. She just like constantly had to, you could even like see her look to the side and talk to people. Like she was like, yo, this is some bullshit, ain't it? I know, right.
I love them cutting to fucking Pelosi, I think.
Like that's who it was, Nancy Pelosi. I couldn't think of her name.
They cut to her a bunch of times, and her face was like made of hate. Like,
man.
Yeah.
And she was just like, really? Really?
Like she didn't smile once. She looked straight pissed. I remember one time she even stood up and clapped, and she still looked pissed. I was like,
right. And like when they showed Chuck Schumer a couple of times, like again, this is a word I don't use a lot in my vocabulary, but I really feel like that if he was black in his mind, he was just sitting there like, really, nigga? Really? Like, really? Like,
but in fact, maybe I'll tag that video because I just realized it has other Democrats in there with their wonderful faces during this. But those are the looks of faces as they watch our government system fall into a shithole.
Yeah,
they are just seething throughout. It's a fun part to like what was kind of a depressing state of the union.
Yeah, it was.
So I'll attach that video to the.
Like I seriously, it is funny because a lot of my friends they were watching the State of the Union. They were actually watching clips of Obama's past State of the Union addresses, and I felt like at one point it's like I should be doing the same thing because look, Obama never. I'm not saying Obama, like everything he said was poignant. Everything that he said was, relevant and everything like that. But God damn it, at least when you heard him speak, even when you heard Bush speak, you got a sense that, yeah, these people are actually trying to govern and trying to build a, state where the union is better and that the country is better. It's like even if their ideas may not be the most sound ideas, at least their ideas are trying to be as beneficial to as many as possible. As it like, and seriously, I have to reiterate this again. We gave Bush way too much shit that he deserved. That man is a national treasure, and you should fucking apologize to all the shit you gave him, because now we realize that him in office was not the worst thing in the world. This is the worst thing in the world. And you need to like fucking tell that dude, even if you don't like him. And again, I'm not with Bush's agendas and the things that they did and all his father's friends did, but god damn it, at least he tried to be respectful in office. At least he tried to at least present himself as someone who actually gave a damn about anything except for his isolationist, like neo-Nazi type agenda. Like seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one thing you can say about a lot of the politicians. It's like, largely they're also motivated by, wanting to impress their constituents or whatever and keep their votes up. But generally speaking, as bleak as many people's view on politics is, I do get the sense that a lot of them are at least trying to do what they think is right for the American people. Sometimes they think stupid things, but I don't think that they're always of ill intent. Whereas Trump, if ill intent isn't the right word, maybe selfishness is the better one. Like,
yeah, that's.
I don't get the sense that he's trying for the American people, really. Not in the sense. Even politicians I haven't liked, I would still say that they were at least trying to do something right. I cannot offer the same thing to Trump. Not at all. No way.
Yeah, no.
Oh, not normal motherfucker. But let's wrap up. Look out for those Democrat faces. They are a glimmer of sunshine, ironically.
Yeah.
Look out for Ben Carson, because when he claps this, I don't know, this motherfucker is so adorable. Like, he just this face, oh my god. I saw him clapping, I was like, I can't. I just started laughing.
I've said it many times, I'll say it again. He's an idiot savant. He was very good at doing one thing, and that's brain surgery. But otherwise, I feel like he's just that really, really like naive child that's like, so we're going for ice cream after this, right? Yeah, ice cream. Yay, ice cream. Like, no.
I don't like the motherfucker, but he's adorable. The way he talks, the way he looks, the way he was clapping, it's like, all right.
He's the black version of Cletus the slack-jawed yokel on The Simpsons. That's what he is. Goddamn.
Yes. Look out for the few good moments in there from other people. And I will say, even though Trump was using these stories for his own gain, some of the stories were truly beautiful stories. Beautiful, inspiring, wonderful stories. It's a shame that they were used by an asshole to make asshole points. But I don't want to take away from those stories separate from Trump. They were fairly uplifting, regardless of the context.
They really were.
So I would also say some of you guys should listen to some of those stories.
Yeah, and apologies to them for like being tools, although some of you were willing to. So
yeah. But anything you want to say to wrap up?
Hashtag I heart GW. I really found her like appreciating for that goddamn idiot. I really have. I really feel bad for how I treated that man during his presidency. I do.
All right, that's for me. Let's all pay more attention to this Russia thing, because we're getting closer into impeachment waters. It's getting a little deep over here in these waters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, again, we glossed over it, but the fact that you have FBI deputies quitting and them trying to like bully out other people within the FBI hierarchy and all of that, and trying to scare them with this memo, which, by the way, the memo basically says that they think they were doing something wrong. It apparently is not pointing to any concrete evidence that there was something wrong. It's just they felt like something was going on that was wrong. So dumb shit, but Yeah. I'm done.
Also, hashtag fire Nia Jax. Anyway.
Hey man, she got rid of One Piece, so I understand. We need to like probably do like something lighthearted like that, like do a goddamn wrestling podcast or something and talk about Royal Rumble. I feel like that should be a palate cleanser if you're down to do that later on this week. Because, jeez,
why the fuck not? Because as depressing as what we just talked about was, again, it wasn't even like the main shit that happened over the last week. It was just a thing that happened over the last hour.
Fucking yeah, just tonight. We're just tonight. One day.
Not even today. Like tonight, as in the hour before the podcast. That was
right.
I'm pretty sure there was other news today.
Yeah.
This is the world we live in.
Oh gosh! All right, it's 1 a.m. Let's end this. All right, so thank you again for everybody who's watched. We appreciate it. Keep supporting us. We're gonna keep soldiering through this mess. One of these days, I would love to do a political podcast in a stable political state. So pray for us. Please pray for us that can happen at some point in the time that we keep doing this. And again, we appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for your support. Anything you want to say to the people as we close out?
Rest in peace, FBI. Hashtag put Nia Jax in prison. Peace.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it. Have a good one. Later.